Yes, the essential nature of anything is the aspect of that thing that cannot be removed from it. So the essential nature of ourself is that aspect of ourself that remains behind when everything that is not essential to us is removed. And if we explore this experientially, not intellectually, but if we actually make an experiential exploration of what is our essential nature, removing everything that is superfluous to us, what we end up with is consciousness or awareness. For instance, our thoughts are obviously not essential to us. If a thought was essential to us, then every time a thought disappeared, we would feel that a little bit of us disappeared with it. But we don't feel that. That the thoughts appear, they last for a while, they vanish. The thought doesn't actually add anything to us when it appears. It doesn't remove anything from us when it leaves. Likewise, our emotions, they may be very, very intimate, very intense, but they're not essential to us. We exist in the absence of any particular emotion. The same with perceptions, sensations, activities, relationships. So if we remove everything that is not essential to us, the one element of experience that we cannot remove experientially from ourselves is consciousness. That is our bottom line. It is our primary experience. It is not possible to have an experience of ourself, or indeed of anything, without consciousness. So consciousness is the prerequisite for any experience or knowledge. So consciousness is primary in our experience. And I would suggest it's the only element of our experience that remains consistent throughout all experience. For instance, again, let's make this a practical and not just philosophical or intellectual. If I were to ask you now, are any of the thoughts, images, feelings, sensations, or perceptions that you are currently having the same as those that you were having, let's say, this time yesterday?
I don't think so, no.
Why the hesitation? Surely that your current thought, let's just call it thought and perception to keep the list short. Surely the current thought and perception that you are having now is different from
quite different.
It's different from the thought and perception that you were having 2 minutes ago, 2 days ago, 2 years ago, when you were 20 years old, when you were 2 years old. Your thoughts and perceptions have changed innumerable times in your life. There's no constancy there. There's no continuity in objective experience. By objective experience, I mean thoughts, images, feelings, sensations, perceptions. Now, what about if I asked you the question, is the awareness that is aware of your current experience different from the awareness that was aware of your experience this time yesterday?
No, I don't think it is. Like, I feel like the awareness has been, and I think this is part of what has been somewhat illuminating about interacting with the way in which your meditation is taught in some ways, that it's, how do I say this? I've had the feeling of being in that sort of seat of awareness, and that has been there since as far as I can recall. Even as a child, like as a child, I experienced that, and it's such an interesting thing.
Connor, have you not always felt, I am myself? That you feel there is a continuity to your identity. You don't feel I'm one person one day and I'm James the next day and Harry the next day. And you always feel I'm essentially the same person or the same self now that I was yesterday, last year. And when I was a 2-year-old boy, do you not feel that you're essentially the same self as you were as a 2-year-old boy. Well, none of your thoughts, feelings, sensations, or perceptions are the same now as they were yesterday, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or when you were a 2-year-old boy. So none of your thoughts, feelings, sensations, or perceptions can account for your absolute certainty. I am the same self. So where does that sense of the continuity of your identity come from? There must be one element of your experience that is continuous. Otherwise, you would not have the sense of continuity. Now, what is that? What has remained continuous throughout your life?
Yeah, I mean, as far as I can tell, it's just the awareness of that experience.
Just the fact of being aware. Everything else comes and goes. So that being aware is like the screen, and all your thoughts, images, feelings, sensations, perceptions, and so on are like so many images or movies that play on the screen. But just as a movie requires a permanent background, so experience requires the continuity of awareness. And that, I would suggest, is our essential identity. Now, we can go further. If I were to ask you now, describe your thoughts or your perceptions or your feelings, your bodily sensations, you would describe their qualities, their features, there would be something objective there for you to describe. What if I were to ask you, and refer to your experience of being aware, not your ideas or what you've read in a book, but if you were to refer now to the simple fact of being aware, nothing mystical or spirit, just the ordinary, familiar feeling of being aware, how would you describe it?
It's almost like it really is. It's hard for me to put to language something.
You're struggling to say anything about it, and quite rightly, Connor. It's an unkind question to ask you, and you're right to struggle to say. If you were to ask me a question about it, I would also struggle to say something true about it. Why? Because there's nothing objective there that we can describe. It's not like a thought or a feeling or a sensation or a perception. It has no color or size or shape or taste or smell. So there's no language to describe it. In fact, your initial silence was in fact the most accurate thing you said about it. Now, having no objective qualities or features, how can we legitimately claim that it is temporary or finite or limited? We can't. The reason we think that our essential self is something temporary and finite and limited is because we have allowed ourselves to become mixed up with the content of experience. We have identified ourselves with the content of our thoughts, feelings, bodily sensations, and so on. And this mixture of our self, unlimited awareness, with the qualities of experience produces an apparently temporary, finite, separate self or ego.